and welcome to Pillow Talk with Angela. I'm your host, Angela Stribling. You know what? I just remembered our guest tonight was with us when we debuted this song and had our first Pillow Talk event. So, I'm talking about Dr. Roz, Dr. Rosalind Aker Black. She's a clinical psychologist. She's doing so many different things. She's a well sought after relationship coach, relationship expert, and so much more. I'm going to let her tell you all the things that she's doing, and she's doing a lot and doing it real big. Please welcome our dear friend, Dr. Rosalind Aker Black. Dr. Roz, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. As I was listening, I was like, I remember that night so clearly. It was such a fun night.
It was such a fun night. Will Downing was there. We, sang this as we were singing on the track together. We sang it together that night, had people, had a question answer thing, had a topic, had you, our relationship expert, weigh in. I forget what the topic was, but it was juicy.
Yeah, it was juicy. It was a great topic. It was a great conversation.
The place was packed. They had to turn people away. They had the fire marshal showing up. So that's what I call a successful turnout. When the fire marshal has to
I was a little nervous. I almost didn't get in. I think I may have been the cutoff person. I was like, no, Angela's expecting me. I promise you, I'm not some crazy fan.
That would have been an empty seat on the stage. That would have been so messed up.
I know.
Dr. Roz, I'm so happy that you agreed to do this show with us tonight. I mean, you always show up and you give us gems, in terms of just navigating the whole world of relationships. It's big.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. I appreciate you always reaching out to me. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, we really appreciate your advice. And so tonight, let's just get right into the topic. Our Pillow Talk topic is, what are your top one or two reasons that you would actually leave a relationship? I mean, when it's like it for you, it's like, okay, I can't get past it. Where shall we start with that?
Oh, that's so juicy. And it's gonna be different for everyone. For me personally, I've told my husband if there's an outside child, I'm out. Because you need to go be with your family. I don't believe in having dysfunctional families, and children don't deserve that. Children don't deserve to be thrown into a situation because adults could not act appropriately. So that's my number one deal breaker. There was
Okay,
like,
what if you had children also?
well, if I had children also, yeah, but that's a good question. Well, luckily we don't, but that's a great question. Um, I still, I guess in that moment that I would accept the child and try to provide a loving home for the child. But it would be very hard because my family would be disrupted. And I believe in cohesiveness wholeheartedly. And not that blended families can't work, they can, but I just believe in cohesiveness. And so I always said that if that ever happened, then that would be the ultimate end of us because you need to go be with your family.
Yeah, that's hard. That's a big one.
Yeah, that's a huge one.
Yeah. What's your next one?
Oh, my next one would be absolutely abuse. Any form of abuse, you have to, especially if it's physical. And the reason why I say that, well, let me go back. If you sense emotional and verbal abuse, physical abuse is not too far behind it. And so I always encourage people to be safe in relationships. When your safety is threatened, and we all know when our safety is threatened, if your safety is threatened, then that's not the relationship for you. And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. A lot of people are afraid to leave because they don't want to hear what people have to say. But I implore, when I work with couples and abuse is an issue, I implore them to leave each other alone because we want everyone to still be alive and well. And it's unfortunate now. I was just speaking with a young person, a young friend of mine who was devastated because friends that he went to high school with, they had been together ever since high school, and they ended up having a murder suicide. And they had like 2 young babies. And so he was just like, nobody ever saw this coming because they were always together. They were such a loving couple since they were like in ninth grade, and they had been married maybe about, I think he said maybe they were married about 13 years or so. He was completely devastated. And so I say in those instances that you have to make, especially if there are children involved, you have to ensure the safety of yourself and your children at all costs. Because at the end of the day, murder suicides are real. And it used to be, Angela, unfortunately, it used to be that being African American was a protective factor for suicides. But we are now seeing that that is not the case. We
That's
are
right.
now seeing that that is not the case because it's happening quite often. There was another situation. This happened in Baltimore. And I don't know if you remember this, but the young man committed murder suicide basically on Facebook.
I remember that
Yeah.
story. I do.
Yeah, it was horrific. And the crazy part about that is that I just gotten a referral maybe about 2 weeks before to see him, but I didn't have space
Oh my God.
to see him. And so that was heartbreaking for me as a therapist, but it was kind of a relief as well because my goodness, who knew that he was in such pain
Yeah.
and that amount of pain. And so I did try to get him another referral in time. And so I'll just be honest with you, as a therapist, I felt a lot of guilt
I can.
behind that because I was like, I couldn't, when you're in this world, you're always trying to save the world, right? When you work in this field. And so I was like, my goodness, if we could have gotten him some help, then maybe it wouldn't have turned into that. But the initial intake of him, there were no suicidal or homicidal markers.
Wow.
It's just that he was going through a tough time, but no, I mean, because we do ask for those things. We have to, by law, we do have to ask for suicidal, homicidal ideations. We have to. And there were no markers for that. So I had to go to my own therapy for that, if I'm just being honest, because it just was pretty bad.
I can only.
Because I think it happened in front of, so he went to his ex-wife's house, killed her, and then turned a gun on himself while his two kids sat in the car.
I
So
remember
it
that.
just was
Horrific.
horrific, horrific. And it was all done on Facebook. And it was horrific.
My
It
God.
was horrific.
I mean, I'm glad that you did go to therapy yourself
Oh,
and release yourself for that. I mean, and to your credit, you did recommend
yeah,
someone for him, and he might have been too deep into it, for it to, maybe it was late, too
yeah,
late to
yeah.
turn back. Who knows? God knows. And you raise such interesting points in both of your deal breakers, and I appreciate you sharing those with us. Um, the communication piece is so large just in any relationship. I mean, yeah, people cheat even when it seems like everything is going great in their relationship. The person being cheated on might feel like, man, I was doing everything right. I was loving on my husband or on my wife, and yet they were cheating all along.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, I think probably every time, it doesn't have anything to do with you, but
It
everything
doesn't.
them,
It
right?
it is absolutely when someone cheats, it's absolutely a personal choice of theirs. Now
Does
there are situational factors that may come into place, but when a person decides to make a conscious effort to cheat, because think about when you cheat, you have to consciously think about what that's going to look like, how you're going to make that work, where it's going to be the meeting place, how you're going to communicate with the person. Everything is done under a cloak, everything is done under secrecy. So it is a conscious act. It
oh
is
yeah,
a decision being made to cheat. And so you really have to, as I tell my clients that I see that have had infidelity in that, and here's the thing, cheating isn't a deal breaker for everyone. You
yeah,
really can move past it. And I say that people look at me like I'm crazy all the time when I say that, but cheating is just a symptom of a problem. It is not the problem.
yeah.
So you have to get to the core issue of what is the problem. And as you were alluding to, it could be communication, you know, not feeling as if you're being heard. That's very hard when a person doesn't feel heard or seen in a relationship,
Yeah.
and then someone begins to give them attention. I always say you have to make sure you divorce proof your marriage. What I mean
Mm,
by that is that you have to listen to the needs of your partner.
yeah.
And that's a part of a, well, first of all, people don't know what effective communication is. And
If
it's three parts. It's three parts. The first part is hearing the perspective of your client. And so that's active listening, not hearing what they're saying just to respond, because a lot of us do that when we're in
client,
arguments. Yeah,
a partner.
we're trying to defend ourselves. We're trying to think about how to respond to what they're saying, and you're not really hearing what they're saying because you're too busy trying to, your ego is in place. So you're too busy trying to defend yourself instead of looking at whatever that issue is as a partnership. And so active listening is going to be your first line of defense with effective communication. The second line of defense is going to be putting yourself, understanding their perspective. So putting yourself in their shoes, right? And so really empathizing with where they're coming from.
Mhm.
Um, and then the third line of defense of effective communication is then responding to the need. So I'll give you an example. I don't know. I'm a huge Love and Marriage Huntsville fan. I don't know if you watched that show, but
Not
one,
that
it's
one.
it's a great show. I mean, it's a
Sure.
good show on. I'm a reality junkie. Sorry, but one of the young ladies, Kimmy is her name, and she's from the Baltimore area originally, but she was going through breast cancer, but her husband still wanted to be intimate with her, and so she was trying to explain to him that with the chemo, with the fight, well, fighting for her life, basically, she did not feel sexually desired. She did not feel sexually beautiful. Finally, he got it, but he didn't get it at first. He wasn't listening. He was only thinking about what he needed in the moment.
Yeah.
And that was creating havoc in their marriage. And so she was trying to appease her husband because they have a very young marriage, maybe about 5 or 6 years, maybe. They have a very young marriage. So she was trying to appease him, but she wasn't enjoying the act. And it was because of her body was
Yeah.
fighting for his life. And so I think sometimes you have to put your ego aside. You have to put what your needs aside sometimes to hear what it is that your partner is saying to you and
Mhm.
then figure out a compromise to make it work. And so I think communication style makes a big difference. The tone in which you say things and then really communicating effectively. People think just because you say something, you've communicated.
Right.
No, you've just made a statement. That's not communication. You said what you wanted, but if you guys have not gone through the three parts of, okay, I hear what you're saying. Now let's make a plan on how we can make this better, then you haven't communicated effectively.
You just said something.
Yeah, you just said something. You just said something. Yeah.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. I mean, that yeah. I mean, it's a lot for grown people to take in and
Yeah.
to really hold yourself accountable. And you're so right. I mean, just the way that there's always going to be conflict with two separate individuals. That's just the way, just
Yeah.
the way we are. And it's a healthy thing. You don't want to be agreeing on every single thing. That means
Absolutely.
being honest.
Absolutely.
Oh goodness, how do I send that to voicemail? I can't believe this is happening. Wait a second. That's funny. All right, let's see. How do I turn off my phone?
I
Sorry.
know. No, it's okay. I actually have to turn off notifications because even when I turn off my phone, it still rings. It's weird. So
I hope
no
it's.
problem.
And if my friend who just called me is watching, sorry, I'll call you back. So hilarious. But I love that we're talking about this tonight because some people might not have thought about what their deal breakers are. And knowing that going in, I think it sets you up for success. You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because just as you pointed out earlier, how to divorce proof your relationship. I mean, of course, nothing is 100%. If somebody's trying to go, they're going to go.
They're
But
gonna
if
go.
in it and you both want it to work, it's good to think about all of those things that you clearly illustrated, you know. I think, do you think it's a good idea for couples to talk about, early on if they can, but maybe they're watching tonight and haven't done it yet, to let each other know what the deal breakers are?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You listen, I have a life with this person. You should be able to talk. Listen, I always say this, and I know it sounds horrific, but if you're sharing bodily fluids, then you should be able to talk about any and everything. Like that's my number one rule. Like if we can't talk about things and we're intimate in that way, then maybe it's not the relationship for you. But you should be able to talk about anything in your relationship at any given time when you feel like, you need to express yourself.
Yeah.
That is what a healthy relationship looks like.
Yeah. It seems like that's the only way you can get closer. If something
Absolutely.
is, I mean, and that's both ways. If something's really great, I want to be able to reinforce with you, this works. This is how I like it with us, whatever the case might be. And conversely, if things aren't that great, I mean, don't take it as criticism. Take it as, you know what, doesn't really work for me. Could we try this? Or whatever.
It's
Communication.
feedback.
It's
Feedback is good. People are afraid of feedback, but not critical feedback. Do it with love and care. But feedback is good. Like if I'm not doing something right, then please tell me. And women, you have to allow your spouse to be honest with you, because a
Mhm.
lot of times they want to protect our feelings,
Yeah.
and
And
they're not telling you the truth. And
yeah.
so you're just showing up in a way that they really don't like. And so now you're both at fault at this point because they're not being honest with you.
Yeah.
So allow the space for them to tell you the truth.
Ooh, that's big. That's so good. It's so true because you don't want resentment to start building up and it will if you're not
It-
being honest and not allowing for the honesty.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Get that Band-Aid
Resentment
work
would
for a minute.
definitely,
It's gonna provoke some healing.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But at the end of the day, looking at it, reframing it, right? And saying, my partner is telling me this because they love me enough that they want to give me the opportunity to get it right.
Yeah.
I think if we look at it very differently, sometimes we just hear criticism and we're just like, oh my God, you're so critical,
Right.
or we're just like, it's a negative thing. But no, change how you see it and you'll have changes in your relationship.
Oh, that's huge, and that's so good. That's so rich because you're
Yeah.
right. I mean, you take someone who is just maybe their personality type or based on, what they've dealt with growing up or in their past, they're just defensive about
Yeah.
everything. So imagine being in a relationship with someone like that, and you try to say something, and you're just basically saying, okay, can we do something different? They're taking it as you're criticizing me, you don't accept me for who I am, you don't like me, and you're just always, on my
Yeah.
case.
Yeah.
When it's not that, it's can we just open up and maybe do things a different way or right? So how do you
And I'm glad you asked that because it really is about how you communicate it, right? So, well, God, I can't believe I'm going to share this, but I am. I think you and I have talked about this a lot of times, Angela, but my husband was my first. And so he was just like, you need a little work. Well, of course I do. Of course I do. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm too busy thinking about where do my hands go. I was overthinking the whole process of it. It's like, where do my hands go? What do I do with my hands? Do I touch them here? Do I touch that? It was crazy. It was crazy. But if I did not allow him the space to share those things, he never would have told me. And then we'll celebrate 18 years in September.
Oh,
Thank you. But for 18 years, the man would have been just having a horrible
yeah,
intimacy life because
yeah,
he was too afraid to tell me. Because he's one of those guys where he doesn't want to hurt my feelings. And I'm like, no, tell me so I can be better.
yeah.
Tell me what I need to do differently. Tell me how to do some things differently. And I mean, and it's how you say it. It doesn't have to be like, oh, you're horrible, you're boring. It doesn't have to be anything like that. But it's the tone in which you say it, like, and sometimes rephrase it. I may like a little bit more of this. I may like a little bit more of that. When you did that one thing, that made me very happy. Keep doing that. So throw some encouragement in there as well
Yeah.
when you were sharing the negative feedback. But, start out with the good things that they do and then merge into, and can we try something different?
Mm,
So it really is how it's how you express it.
I love that so much, and thanks for sharing. I mean,
No,
it's wonderful that you guys got to experience that for your first time. I mean, that's you don't hear a lot about that anymore, and
yeah.
what a wonderful, wonderful thing. And 18 years coming up, yes, come on.
Yay. Woo.
Congratulations to you. That's impressive and beautiful. I am
Thank
so enjoying this conversation. Thank you, Dr. Roz. You always
you.
give us such good insights, not only on the topic that we're talking about, but across the board. I mean, there are a lot of wonderful things that the people watching can just kind of, take from this and maybe use in their own relationships, if they're in a relationship. And if not, moving forward, when and if you decide to get into one, this is very useful
Thank
information. So,
you.
Dr. Ross, I mentioned when I introduced you that you've got a lot of things going on. Before we let you go, tell us about what you're working on now, what people can get in on, how they can get in touch with you on social media as well.
Oh, absolutely. I'm at Dr. Roz Aker Black at everything, and it's DRROZ, excuse me, AKERBLACK. So that is my handle on all social media. My website is iamdrroz.org. And so you can find my master classes there, my relationship boot camp, there, different media things that I've done. You can find that all on my website. But I'm excited. I am developing a new masterclass
Ooh,
for marriage burnout because
oh,
that seems to be the thing now. So I'm excited about that, and it's going to have an accompanying book going along with the masterclass, so a journal basically. So I'm excited about that. I plan to launch that June 15th.
ooh,
I'm hoping to get that launched by June 15th. So I'm
congrats.
excited. Thank you.
Good stuff. Marriage burnout.
Yeah.
Yeah. How to
It's
rekindle all that good stuff. Oh my gosh. Yeah,
it's a
that's
real thing, and people don't even know it exists. You hear burnout, but you think burnout from work. But no, marriage burnout is a real thing. So I'm excited to delve into that and to do a master class on that, as well as the journal on how to move through marriage burnout. Because anytime you're in a sustained relationship, you have to learn how to make the maintenance of it. And
yeah.
so burnout is going to come along with that,
Yeah.
So
Because it's
I,
work.
it's work. I hear so many times that my spouse doesn't desire me, my spouse doesn't want me, and that may not be the case at all. They just may be in a burnout
Mm,
phase of your
mm,
relationship. So,
yeah. Ooh, that's gonna be good. We're gonna have to
yeah.
have you back.
Yeah.
Let us know how that went. Yeah, that's wonderful. And then once again, for them to sign up for the marriage burnout, what do they do?
Go to iamdrroz.org. So iamdrroz.org.
Awesome. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Do you want
Thank
to,
you.
before you say goodbye, do you want to just leave us? I mean, with this topic, you drop some gems, and anything you just want to like in closing to close it out with for the couples.
Absolutely. Listen, your things that don't work for you, that are livable flaws that you no longer can live with, are okay. And it's okay to have that honest conversation with your spouse or with your paramour, with your significant other. And it's only going to make your relationship better if you do it appropriately and effectively in the right way. And so I encourage everyone to have honest conversations in your relationships. And I promise you it will either be the beginning of something beautiful for your relationship. It's going to draw you closer, or you may realize that relationship may not be for you. But now you know what you need to look for. You know what your deal breakers are, and so it's not that you are alone, but you are learning more about who you are and what it is that you need to feel happy and whole in a relationship.
Oh, that's beautiful. So well said. And that's the last word on this topic. Thank you, Dr. Roz. We'll see you soon. Have fun with your boot camp. It's going to be
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Wow, that's Dr. Roz Aker Black. That was such a good show. She's so just talented in what she does. I'm so happy that she's available to us. Actually, every single time I've called her, she said yes. So let's keep that trend going. Thank you so much for watching. You're going to hear this conversation back on the radio. That'll be this coming Sunday and Monday on all the platforms that Pillow Talk is on. And I'm so happy that we are celebrating our 10th year anniversary and we're growing. So just find us. That's Pillow Talk with Angela. Have a good night.